Hello and welcome to Conversation for the Curious Mind. My name's Ryan and I'm here with my buddy Edy. How's it going, Edy?
Good.
Yeah, you ready to have some fun?
Yes.
I'm gonna try and move this a second here. Kind of want to look at you while we're talking.
I can see.
Yeah,
I can see you in the camera.
yeah, I know, but there we go. Now I can look at Edy.
Back to the
while I'm
figures.
talking.
Now I can see the thing. If you can, good, right there.
There we go. It's probably still gonna end up in the shot anyway. It doesn't matter.
It's good. Oh, I see. Now I see what you were talking about. The light, right?
Yeah, I didn't want that hard glare on our screen, but we live with what we live with around here.
Yeah, but it doesn't affect your picture though, because
Oh, am I still pretty?
I can see
Yeah,
it there.
right.
It's just there, like a beam of light looking out for it.
Oh, right. That's the satellite keeping an eye on me.
Yeah, I know. Right? Good.
All right, so hello and welcome to another episode of Conversation for the Curious Mind. My name is Ryan, and this is my good friend, Dr. Edy Pierre. How you doing today,
I'm doing
Edy?
good.
So you had something really exciting happen today. You finished your
Yes.
seventh. That was pretty cool.
Yes, I know. This is awesome. I'm going to be thinking about it on my way home and think about it. I remember I decided that I'm going to look into a series of noisemaker, which I addressed in one of my book, Born Without a Trace. I mean, those series are taken from all the other four books, including a couple of aspects from the In Search of Meaning and Purpose. But it's different when I have them written
Hey, Edy, do me a favor and tilt your mic back and kind of
back or
tilt it back away from you, and then can you move it closer to you a bit?
closer to me.
Yeah, just bring it into you. It doesn't matter if it's in the
How's
shot.
that?
You don't mind. Yeah, bring it over that way a little bit, but yeah. There we go.
How's that?
Yeah, that's much better actually.
Yes, so that was awesome. I'm going to be as excited when we release them, and
Yeah, they'll be released very soon, huh?
I want to see the response. I'm looking forward. I want critiques. I want people to critique.
Now, how are you going to release them? Are you going to release them all at once? Or are you going to release one at a time, like one every day, for a week? I'm just curious, what's your plan for distribution of those? For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, just to give you guys a quick rundown, Edy is an accomplished author. He's actually on the second book of a 5-part series. Yeah. And I'm in a relationship with the first book. As I say, I'm not reading it. But anyway, he's taken it an adventure towards putting a monologue that will coincide with his second book that covers different types of noisemakers and how to identify them, I guess, is the main point of it. And he doesn't really tell you how to navigate them yet. I think that might be next part of, or one more of his monologues coming up. But yeah, go ahead, Edy.
The thing that is interesting with the monologue, the material that I shared in what I call them the monologue, these are material I've been living with for 20, 30 years. I cried over them. In other words, the only thing that is new is how they are becoming alive to me. When I wrote those things, the majority of what's happening in the world today would not yet happen. and I wrote those things. And so to go back and look at, I wrote those things while many of the parts that are currently happenings in the world did not happen when I wrote a concept like we. It's only in the last couple of years we start referring to a generation that's postmodern, woke. Some of the legislation that I'm making, we didn't make those legislation. We didn't have COVID-19 when I wrote those things. Many of
Yeah.
the aspect of the Miller's movie I was describing in Born Without a Trace, which is the second book. I entitled Born Without a Trace just because of that. The things I was writing would not yet happen. So I said they have no trace. And my focus was when I published that book, most people are going to say, well, where did you get this from? I said, that's the title of the book. Those things are not yet happened. But then they end up happening.
Yeah. I keep going back as I'm reading. That's why I say I'm not, as I'm indulging in your book, I keep going back to the end of the book to look at the copyright. I'm like, when did he? Because you wrote that one 3 years ago, correct?
This book, it was
The
published in
first one,
2012. Yes.
2012. Okay.
And the book market is vicious. So the people that are working with me, Ex Libris, who is my distributor, they want to follow the wisdom of the book market. You have to sell X number of book on your first book before you publish the second one, or else the market is have no mercy. So you're gonna have a bunch of book there. You really not selling any. And as I told them, my primary focus is not how much book I can sell, but can someone read that book? And whether that's 1% or 1 million, that's perfectly okay with me. So
Yeah.
let's say based on that, then let's reach a number of book like 100,000, and then we'll publish the second book, and that's where we are. And to do that, I need to put event together because I don't have an agent who's promoting the book for me. I'm doing it all. It's a one-man stream, as I called it. So to sell book, I need to put event together, lectures, seminar, and so on and so forth. And that's why I sell
Well,
books.
I think you're doing a big service to yourself. Just what we've done since the beginning of January together, as you start to distribute and to actually like get out there to the world. I think that's gonna open some eyes
And
up.
as we
And
said, you and I, we're taking a seat at the table. There's a conversation that's going on globally, and we finally take a seat at the table to have a say
I
in it.
wasn't invited. I'm here, but I'm just gonna stay until someone tells me to get the hell on with it. But so today I wanted to talk about something. We I'm gonna talk about breath.
Hmm.
And when I say breath, I don't mean what is. But I mean, there's no limit to what I mean. Let's go off of. I'm new school, so everything's on my phone. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. The primary role of breathing is to absorb oxygen and to expel carbon dioxide through the movement of the lungs. Muscles that control movement of the lungs are the diaphragm and the muscles between the ribs. So when I go, that is a breath. Now, we could talk about the importance of breathing. We could talk about different breathing exercises. We can go many different ways with this, but not only are you a studied and doctorate psychologist, you're also a yoga instructor.
Yes, yoga and meditation instructor.
Yeah, that's breathing and stretching.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, and if you want to, so let's talk about the way, because I mean, meditation and yoga is kind of a common breathing. Everyone, if you study meditation, if you study yoga, we all kind of understand the purpose of it and the motions. But let's go from like a psychological standpoint. When you were in college, the thing that I'm curious about, was there any focal points on the breath?
No. In
Now,
psychology, the primary focus would be the brain and the central nervous system.
okay, but through yoga we and meditation, we know that we can affect the brain and central nervous system through breath.
Absolutely.
Okay, so like as a clinical psychologist, I'm sure that there were behavior patterns and like
Yes.
behavior tics that you would see.
Yes.
That's an angry person, someone who's scared or panicking. Like hyperventilating breathing. But with your, I don't want to say an odd mix of skill sets, but not always meshing. You don't know many clinical psychologists who are into meditation, yoga, mindfulness, who's also studied, theology through the church. And so I'm curious for your point of view on breath work in modern psychology, and is there a hole there? Are we missing something? Because I'm curious.
I don't think we're missing something, although I would say that we know a lot about those aspects, particularly the breath and the central nervous systems and different parts of the body. I think what's missing is that we're not using those things to full extent and to harness all the benefits. Now, we know a lot about the breath, but we're really not using the breath in its full capacity. Also, the interrelationship between the breath and the central nervous system, also, we're not using those things because there's a very, very intimate relationship between the human breath, our breath, not just the human breath, any living organism, the breath, and the central nervous system. The central nervous system is paramount in our existence. As a matter of fact, in psychology, what we understand the central nervous system, it's say that it actually has the ability to perceive the external world and formulate a plan and hand that plan to the brain prior to me having experience. Now, that's some very deep psychological issue that I have a functional system in me that have the ability to perceive the
Wait,
external world.
wait. Say that again, please.
Yes, the central nervous system has the ability to perceive the external world, formulate a plan, and give it to the brain before I experience that which I'm about to experience. And that is formidable because
Okay,
neither
so
the
let's slow down, Eddie. Wait, I need to understand this. So, my central nervous
correct,
system, if we talk of it as its own, has the ability to formulate a
for
plan,
seeing the world, perceive the external world.
so to see the world,
Correct, the external world.
but it can create a
Not
plan.
can, it does.
Okay, so my central nervous system can create a plan to kick open the door
I
before.
kick the door. And then hand that plan to the brain. So when I come, I have a plan given to me whether I kick the door or don't kick it, but the plan was given to
Okay,
me by the central.
so now I'm ready to understand this. So you're basically saying every neuron, everything is already fired and ready. It's
Correct,
charged before I even decide that I'm going to consciously kick the
correct.
door.
And it hand that plan over
Or
to the brain, who will also hand it over to my conscience awareness
so who is in control of that central nervous system?
itself.
Can I talk to him?
Can you?
Can you
Can you do what?
talk to
Can you
him?
talk to it? No,
Yeah.
it only the central nervous system communicate to all there's about 11 different functions in the human body. The central nervous system is stopped. It communicate with the other system to formulate that plan for you, but it listens to two major systems of the body, your gut system and the brain. These are the only
Okay.
two things it listens to. The reason it does that is because you have your nose, as you're talking about the breath. The breath is much more than
The
Yeah,
breath.
the breath. It's much more
I thought you said bread at
the
first. I was
breath.
like,
It's much more than simply inhale oxygen and put energy into the body. The breath, um, it's a messenger. Okay, now I'm getting into a fundamental aspect of the breath. It's a messenger. It, yes, it does take oxygen and give it to the body and to distribute those oxygen, but it also carries message to the body as well. What type of air I'm breathing? Is the air clean? Is the air pleasant? Is it nauseous? Is it smoke? Is it burning? All those are in the bread for the body to determine what type of message the bread just carried, and then to determine, do I close my eyes because of that bread, or what do I do with the message? It's also a messenger, and so it depends on that. In addition to it, it needs validation. When the bread carries a message to the body, the brain need to affirm this message is accurate, and the brain depends on my eye to take image, like a picture, and send it to the brain, and the brain is gonna enter into a dark room to process that pictures and tell the body, yes, what the bread says is
okay.
true. This is what you need to do. Very intricate, interactive process.
And it kind of 100% makes sense. Like it's almost common sense when you explain it that way, because of course, if my nose breathes in smoke, it's going to tell my eyes to start watering to
And then it
protect
sends
us.
signal to the brain what's happening on the outside world and what I need to do. And we take those for granted because it's happening so fast.
Now, does that need to do?
Yes.
Like, is that part of the human angst? From a Because no matter what, your breath is going to take in a need to do.
Yes.
So, could that be a tangible cause to the human angst?
Yes, it does. In addition to, and as I said, the breath is also a messenger. Let's take, for example, the concept of memory. Whenever we talk about memory, people often think about the brain. So if you say memory, people think brain. Okay, the
Taste.
whole body is a memory.
Yeah, like I remember things more through my ears, my nose, and my taste buds than I could ever, like a song or a noise or a smell or a taste. My mom, prime example, my mom makes this macaroni salad, but she makes it like it's tuna salad.
Hmm.
So it's
Pretty
like,
neat. Yes.
and it's tuna and it's eggs and then it's macaroni too.
Yes.
It's like
Yes. I
you're,
had that before.
I love it. I love it. My mom makes the best. I can taste that. I can have a bowl of that sitting here right
And so
now.
your
And
mouth
I'm
is
12
watering
years
wherever
old.
you are.
I'm 12 years old, sitting in my mom's backyard underneath this big, huge shade tree, sitting Indian style, eating a whole bowl of this
Absolutely.
while my brother's running down because he wanted what was left.
Absolutely. The body is complex, and then the bread as well. For example, if if one night um, I get off work and I'm going to the parking lot, and I notice someone is following me, and I get concerned the person behavior, and as the person behavior become very, radical, so I run to get into my vehicle and lock the door. You know where the body's going to put the memory of that event? At the bottom of my feet. It's not going to
Because
be in my
you,
brain.
because you ran.
That memory going to be at the bottom of my feet because that's the part the brain use to get me out of what perceived to be danger into the vehicle where it's safety. And so at any other time I need to remember what happened, the bottom of my feet is where the brain is going to go to regain that information that was happened. So if I were to go home and I'm telling my family what happened, We don't know that, but the brain goes at the bottom of my feet, and we count that information as I'm speaking. It's actually recorded and put it at the bottom of my feet. Literally, that's the
Yeah,
biology of the
there.
breath. And so the breath is like it's a messenger. It does carry energy, oxygen to the rest of the body, but it also carry different type of message to us. Also, we can regulate the breath through meditations and through yoga. We have something we call lengthen the breath. In other words, to have a full breath, you have to both exhale and inhale at the same amount of time. Most people are not breathing. We learned there's 21 different types of breath through yoga and meditation. Most people only do like one or two. So you're really not breathing. To have a breath, you have to inhale and exhale at the same quantitative measure of both inhale. When you inhale, that's half a breath. When you exhale, that's a full breath. So you need both inhale, exhale, that's one breath. And that's how we count the breath when we do a pass through.
Yeah, I do. I'm amateur at damn near everything that I do, but I do like six in, pause three, six out, and I do that for a lot of things. We've lifted
Yeah,
together. Right?
yeah.
We actually met in the gym. I mean, if you notice, before I'm doing my lift, it doesn't
Through the
matter if it's
breath.
a heavy lift or a light lift. My breath has to get into a full cycle rhythm.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And I again, I know nothing, but for me personally, it charges the body, and then it can also relax the body because I've used breath before to, and I use it often to help relax or go to sleep or stretching. It's
As you know, one of the things we learned over the years, where we used to do, what do you call when we used to give people fingerprint testing? What do you call that? Where to put those?
oh the I don't
When we used
remember
to in investigation, you're going to take a test,
the
polygraph
polygraph.
test.
Yes,
To
there
do a
you go.
polygraph test, it's all breath, and this is why we don't.
They're not reliable.
It's not admissible in the court because we train people how to pass it with calling flower. It's just the
Do you
breath.
want to hear something that's
It's
crazy?
just the breath.
Okay, so
If you
so
control
this
the
I
breath,
this now you are right. It is not admissible in court. However, under the UCMJ, the Uniform Military Code of Justice, a polygraph test is admissible in court, and there are people who have gotten sent to prison, well, the brig, and people who are free because of passing. Some people have been trained and still passed. And by the military, who then charged them later and had them pass a polygraph test. But yeah, it's it is. It's all even what we're doing here, the conversation. There's a rhythm of breath that's
absolutely.
involved, and if you perfect it, you're able to project your voice further. You're able to enunciate things better. You're able to be more long-winded. That's where Hitler beat out Mussolini. Mussolini was going to pull out of the war, and Hitler's doctor shot him up with whatever magic potion he had. And Hitler was he was a breath centric breather. And in the German language, it's such a robust tone. And he literally talked at Mussolini for like 12 hours straight, never let him get a word in edgewise. Mussolini was exhausted and left there, and he was like, whatever. Keep fighting, guys. I
Yes,
can't.
yes. So there's a lot of mystery in the breath. So we can look at the biology of the breath, and in the biology of the breath, of course, is every you exist because of the breath. And one of the things we studied what we call literalism. In other words, are things literal? What we know from a combination of what we call transcendentalism and biology, would we say that, well, what we understand and a lot of study for that, excuse me, that at the moment of conception, okay, are you still there? at the moment of conception, a quantitative measure of breath is actually uh, input in that living organism, the, the child that to be born at the moment of conception. A total amount of breath is given to you for your whole life. You're not going to get any more. And so literalism means that if that's true, you have a measure of breath that dedicate to you. When every time you breathe, that's -1. So let's say we have about 3 trillions breath given to an average person. A person would take at least 3,500,000,000,000 breath. The person will be live for 70 years. So each time you breathe, that's -1, -1, -1. At some point of time, you're going to take that last breath, we called it. And the science has proved that. That's where we get X number of breaths. So for every hour, you take 21,240 breaths, literally. And so what we want is we can lengthen the breath. And so you want to have a full breath. So you can have the full measure of breath because you only have certain amount of breath. This is why we understand transcendence. If that being the case, there's nothing neither science or anything can do to give you one more than the quantitative measure that was deposed for you at the moment of conceptions. And so it's extremely important. And also in biology, when a woman is impregnated, the first part of the unborn, I'm call it unborn literally, so people can know that, yeah, I'm call it unborn. It's a baby. I intended to say
We know it's a baby, Eddie.
the first part of the child that is, it's, yeah, it's a baby.
Is unborn, baby, unborn
That's
humans.
correct.
We are not talking about
That's
puppies.
right. The
Okay,
unborn
so
baby.
when the mama first got it and the baby first got there, like, I'm,
That's right. The
oh, baby. Okay, so right after, oh, baby.
baby, the first part of the baby that is created in terms of organ is the intestine, your gut. That's the first
Yes,
part that is created.
it's the most important part.
That's the first part. The heart come on about three on the third uh, later on, but the gut is the first part because in order for that unborn child to grow, it needs to eat, and so that's why it starts growing. It multiplied in hours.
Yep.
But all that through the breath was doing all the intricate detail, bringing that pieces all together. The heart, when it comes, uh, the heart comes like this, like a page of paper. That's the way
And put that down a little bit. Here.
that's the way the heart comes.
Yeah, let me see it. You draw something on there?
Well, I need it when you're done. That's the way the heart comes. Don't let him read it.
Oh, I'm not supposed to show
No,
that?
those are completely different thing. I'm just using that for the.
Okay, so
I don't even know what's in there. Now, if you look, that's the way the heart comes. It's coming floating in the air. And then we'll watch it fold itself all by
oh,
itself.
you were making a point. I'm looking at your paper like you had a diagram for me.
What's in there?
Please.
Oh, where am I?
Yeah, that's why I was like, uh-oh.
Skill, demons, angels. Yes,
I was,
that's
yeah.
the way the
Okay.
and then you watch it fold itself into the shape it has become, and it's not connected to anything. It's doing that inside of the mother's womb, and when it folds itself, and it just go and place itself right where it becomes above the the rib there and behind the rib and everything else. So it's all that is the breath. Is directing all of those pieces organ with the breath. The breath is intricate in every aspect of bringing the fruition of the child together. So there's lots of mystery engaged in the breath, and that's from our biological, but also there is spiritual aspect of the breath as well. The spiritual aspect of the breath, if you take a biblical view of life, which I do, that God made man from out of the dust of the earth, and the man was simply an object at that point. And according to the story as it told, then God breathed into the man, and the man became a living soul. A lot of people don't know that, but um, your soul is not in you if you believe there's a soul. Actually, the body is in the soul. The soul is not in the body.
The body is in the soul.
Correct.
Okay. So like the soul is like we would say
It's a
aura, maybe.
mystery. Do not try to explain
Yeah, I
it.
don't know either.
It's
Yeah.
totally a mystery.
I figured I'd ask, man. Come on. I'm curious too.
And that's how we, in Transcendent, we can educate ourselves to experience transformation, because transformation means I'm transformed from seeing me as a physiological object as opposed to a spiritual element. And so that's what transformation is. I no longer see myself as a physical being. I see myself as a spiritual being, because that's where I'm at. You cannot put a soul in a body. That's not possible. But you can put a body in the soul.
You cannot put a soul in the body.
It will not be able to contain it.
Oh, so you're saying like even if I'm a good person but I got a bad soul, I'm stuck with it.
Well, we don't know what that is. We don't use good
Yeah,
and bad in
but
those concepts.
yeah,
But
but there's no soul transplants going
no,
on.
no, that's
Oh,
not
no,
possible.
no.
Heart transplant, yes, but not soul transplant.
Yeah.
You could get heart transplant. And so that's a spiritual aspect. But there's also cause and effect relating to the breath. That cause and effect is that if you're going to change it, one of the things that it affects is your breath. You're not breathing right. Your breath is shallow. You're not paying attention to your breath. It affects your sleep as well. Your body, once your body is lack the the oxygen, the transportations, and the messages that the breath carry, all the organs begin to be malfunctioning, which eventually you will be sick, because the breath not only giving oxygen to energy to the body, but also carry different messages to the body. Once those are lacking, that's what you call the pathological aspect of the breath. And that's why if we say someone is depressed, we're not simply talking about the biology of depression, but also talking about that's what we mean by the neurology.
Depressed.
There's a
Yeah,
neurological
right.
aspect, which is the word neuro mean air, which is breath. So
And then depressed means that the air is
correct,
depressed.
correct. All that is very important to understand. And so when we talk about the breath, we're talking about, again, if you look at it from a fundamental, from a transcendent, from a spiritual aspect, you're talking about existence itself.
Yeah, I think we can all kind of agree with that. What about from a psychological
Well, that's science now. You get
point of
into
view? Yeah,
science and biology.
let's go
Yes.
into just your opinion, though. I mean, and it's not even. Let's just have fun with the conversation. Just because you hold both areas of expertise, I think it's a cool opportunity for us to maybe explore this thought process. In what ways could our breath or does our breath affect us
In
psychologically?
every way. Oh, in every way. Everything it relates to the breath in every way: mental, emotional, social, psychological, sexual.
Now, why do you think that that's not studied or discussed in university?
Oh, it does. Oh, it
Okay,
does. Oh, very much so. Today we know so. Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you're talking about neurobiology, neurobiophysics, and
okay,
psychology.
but why not psychology?
Oh yeah,
Is
in
it
psychology
discussed?
as well, very well. Oh yeah, if you now that's different though. If you get a bachelor's degree, it's an extension of your high school. If you want to get into
Yeah,
those concepts, you need at least a master's degree or a
and
PhD. Oh
get
yeah,
into a doctorate.
definitely.
Yeah,
In fact, today we're talking about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is my ability to actually influence the brain. It's my ability to actually I can recreate the brain through thought process and we do know that through neuroplasticity as well as transcendent, it's that your thought, it's energy, and therefore your thought determine your focus determine your reality. These are all breath leading concept, and neurobiophysics. We're learning those things in college and school. The science is very, very, oh yeah, very, very well done. We learn about, for example, how your breath affect your digestive system, your what you call the gut flora. That's your
Yeah,
gut flora.
yeah,
It needs lots of oxygen for it to function properly. That's why so many of us have a gut problem and digestive
yeah. And
problem.
if you want proof of that, go to Buffalo Wild Wings. You'll be breathing through it. Trust me.
Exactly. And so what happens is if you're not breathing well enough, there's not enough oxygen ever made it to your gut flora, and that's why so many of us have internal medicine will tell you that in other words,
So when you say gut floor, what do we mean by gut floor?
gut flora is that there are more bacteria in your intestine than any part of your body. That's what you call the gut, the correct flora. Okay, that's right. And there is what we call good bacteria and bad bacteria.
And they live on the floor
Exactly.
of the
And
gut.
so you need to eat food that nourishes the good bacteria because 90% of the chemical your brains need to function in its optimal level is made up in your gut. So a healthy gut, it's a healthy brain. If your gut is not healthy, you don't have a healthy brain because your brain depends on your gut to make those chemicals and transfer them to the brain. The brain also distributes those chemicals as it receives them from the gut. And the central nervous system communicate those messages when they're properly functioning. And so the gut flora is how well your gut is managing to create those bacteria. If you're not eating the right kind of food, you're not sleeping well, your environment is not well, another environment means your home life, you're constantly upset, angry, and all those sort of things. All that affect your gut flora.
Isn't it crazy that someone can still survive and even thrive in this society, though? Like there's a lot of people that are guarantee you they do not have a healthy gut biome at all,
Yeah, but
and
no, sir.
they're Fortune 500 CEOs, they're senators, congressmen, they're
Yeah, but notice we're very unhealthy. We're not well.
yeah, but isn't it odd though that you can be unhealthy and not well and still be super successful in this
From a
society?
material point of view, but from a psychological point of view, we don't call it.
But just in a societal point
Yeah,
of view,
from yeah,
yeah, just strictly speaking from the societal, because obviously, you're not. Obviously, I feel a lot better than a overweight millionaire. Like I wake up every day
yeah,
feeling physically better
yeah,
than a guy who's morbidly obese, but independently wealthy.
yeah. Our lives. One of the things I work with people is to see yourself as an organization. Actually, that's where the word organs come from.
As an
You
organization.
you are an organization, and in the picture, what are the department an organization have, and how does the department function right? If every department do what it's supposed to do, the organization function very well. And we say that uh, trials and problems are your inspector. When problem comes, they come to inspect how well the organization is functioning. And if they
Mhm.
find that there's a lot of openness, they just do whatever they want in your organization, just like, and we know what that is because I work for organization.
I have
Inspection is
to.
like, oh no, we're all on the toes when the inspectors come in.
Yeah,
We,
clean it.
because we don't know what they're going to find. So we want to make sure the organization is functioning optimal so they don't find anything. And so our body, our lives in and of itself, it's an organization and it have different departments. And so we need to be responsible how those departments operate to do what they're supposed to do. As I just mentioned, how that 90% of the chemical the brain needs to do its work optimally produce in the gut system that transport those chemicals to the brain, and so the brain can function optimal And if that's not happening, and then that's why we have all the other problems. So that's just one department. There's the circulatory system as well, which is magnificent. And so there's a function, di- the digestive system. Those are all function. Your stomach should always have water in it because the stomach it's a bag of acid.
It's a bag of
Yeah, it
acid,
needs to
exactly.
always have water to make acid. And so that's what break down your food. When you eat, your food don't go in your belly, it goes in your stomach, and that's processed and turned into protein and distribute and so on and so forth. So you should always, so you should never eat to be full. If you full, you already ate too much. You should never eat to be full. You just eat a portion, and then there's a psychological way, we call psychological way of eating.
Yeah. We're gonna get into that's actually gonna be our next
Okay.
episode we're
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah. So those are
on
very,
food.
very important. And
But
go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, it's very important that when you eat, you should actually follow your bread to eat. If you notice before you sit down to eat, pay attention to your breath as opposed as when you sit down and eat. If you eat and your breath change, that means you are eating too fast, you're not chewing the food well enough, and you probably already eat too much. You should be able to breathe very calmly when you're done eating. But if you find yourself like that's because you eat too much, because now all the organs are pushing for air because you put too much food in the stomach, and the stomach is elasticated, so it pushes itself. That's why I take all the food you put in it. You should never do that. You should be able to eat and breathe very fluidly, like you didn't eat. So don't never eat too.
So when you finish eating, you should still
You
have
should
the same pace of
correct,
breath. It shouldn't be
correct,
like I just
correct.
ran to the end of the driveway and
Yeah,
back. It should just be like I was sitting at a table.
absolutely,
Got you.
absolutely. So that's
That's some really good advice to get out there to
oh,
people.
absolutely.
Because I mean, just being conscious of that alone, then you can start to
Yeah, and again, that's what
change the little habits to make the big changes. That's
exactly.
what this
Yes.
this whole goal for me is to expose myself to things and just become more
Hmm.
aware, so then I can do things just a little bit differently and hopefully get a little bit better outcome every time that I get to the finish line. Um, but yeah, that's really good advice. Your breathing should not change when you finish
Correct.
eating. You
Correct.
should keep the same pace and
Correct.
um,
That's very, very, very
depth of
important to
breath.
do. And again, what would you call that? Mindful eating.
Now, would you mindfully, like like how we said I do before I lift, would you mindfully get yourself into a breathing rhythm before you
Correct.
eat?
Yes.
So, what would that rhythm
Well, that
be
rhythm
like?
should be well.
Like, show me
Well,
like how do
that's
you?
a little bit complicating because I'm talking about home eating. You can't do that
Sure.
in a restaurant.
No, no, no. But that's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
talking about too. Home eating. Like, so what would? Like, how would you set your breath up to start to eat? Like, would you do a deep
Well, you can, yeah,
and
you
then
can take a
start
couple
eating?
of what you call, you can take a couple of deep breaths when you sit down to eat. But the breathing system for eating means everything you're doing, setting the table, preparing the food, inhaling the food as it's cooking, looking at the food, tell your brain what the food, because believe it or not, the minute you start preparing the food, your digestive system begin to digest the food. It begin to prepare itself to receive the food.
Just like my body telling me I'm
Exactly.
to kick the door once it starts smelling chickens,
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
knows.
It's not producing the enzyme and the chemical the body is going to need. That's what we say. My internal self is foreseeing the world and prepare a plan for me.
And that's why McDonald's pumps their exhaust down into the street.
Exactly.
You're already digesting a Big Mac before you even
Exactly.
pull up.
And so when you sit down to eat, you can take a few deep breaths, prepare all the internal organ, and then begin to consume the food. If I tell you, let's go have dinner, the minute I tell you that, your body begin to digest. The digestive system kicked in on our way there. It doesn't start when you put food in it. It starts the minute you think about it. This is why it's so important to prepare the food, to smell the food. It's a matter of fact, when you prepare the food, you begin to consume the food. In other words, let's say I'm going to make mashed potatoes. During the time I'm peeling the mashed potato, the pores, the molecule of the potato is getting into my body. telling my body there will be potatoes, and then
We have potatoes. Yeah, we're
exactly
primal.
my
Yeah,
eyes
without potatoes.
exactly my eyes confirm that.
Mhm.
My thought is preparing how the mashed potato is going to taste, what I'm going to put in it, and then so my whole system is already interrelated to the food I'm cooking, and it's affecting my breathing. So anyone can come and say, "What would you?" They're probably looking at you all like juvenile, all happy. That's because you are
I
interacting
love
with
cooking.
something outside
Yeah.
of you, and the body is prepared. So all that enter into the preparation to eat. Of course, most people in our society eat out. That's not something you can do in a
And even if you're not eating out, you're not getting if you're using a boxed mashed potato instead of peeling potatoes, you're
yes,
not getting that symbiotic
correct. You're not
that
correct, correct.
that
The
signals aren't
interrelation.
firing
No, you're not.
because you're grabbing
No, you're not.
cardboard and
You're
plastic.
not.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean to get people business in trouble,
Yeah, we do.
but,
Come on.
but actually,
Come on,
when
Eddie.
you go
Yeah,
when you
buddy.
go to a restaurant to eat, your central nervous system is actually suppressed
Yes.
because you're going to have to select. You didn't prepare the food. You don't know what you're going to get. And if you have your favorite, if that's your favorite restaurant, you hope they have it. And you don't want them to say, okay, are we not serving that anymore? The last one was 2 o'clock. So your whole system is not in sync with the restaurant at all. It's quite the contrary as opposed to,
It's almost a prison system where you don't get to seriously like what's the difference between being in the hospital where your food is just brought to you and
and
being in a restaurant?
yeah, it's not the same physiological
No.
and psychological interaction than when
I
you
mean, the refrigerator versus the gathering or hunting of your own food is two different worlds
it's
too.
quite different. And also the bread, it's all very, very intricate and part of our intimate and romantic relationship as well. It's all there. When you were your lovers, you want your bread to be fluid. You can pick if someone is nervous, don't want to be where they at, if the companion is not feel safe and secure, all that will pick up in the breath. And once the breath is out of sync, other part of the body begin to follow through as well. The pupil begin to activate. Uh, even people don't know that, but even your hearing begin to affect once the breath is out of sync with itself. People can say that. Did you hear what I said? Oh yeah. They would say,
Yeah.
"Where did you go?" No, I was just thinking about something. That's right. Even the hearing began to deteriorate. It once the breath. So that's what we call synchronicity. All myself have to always be synchronized with myself. That's include my environment, my companion, and what I'm doing. Everything have to be harmonized, or else it begin to affect the breath. And once the breath is affected, everything else is affected.
Hmm. It's really cool how everything ties together like that. But it one again, it's another one of those things that when you find it out, you're like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I know
it's all
because
the
it
time.
yeah, it was there.
It's
It
all
was
the time.
there all the time. That's the purpose of the
Yes,
conversation,
and that's what I say.
right?
It's not what something is missing, but it's all there. We're just not using it to make it
Exactly.
worth the thing.
And it's sometimes, which is the beauty of the world that we do live in. I know that there's a lot of peril, and everyone's terrified of spaceships and chat GPTs writing essays for college kids. I'm going back to college, by the way.
Yeah,
Hell yeah! But I mean, at the end of the day, the information error is amazing. I mean, you can I've learned about things
magnificent.
along these lines because of just
Absolutely,
my own pursuit.
absolutely.
Uh, the other part of breath I like to talk about is exercise. Now, I don't want to cover the yoga and the meditation because I'd actually like to do a whole other sit down and a whole other podcast
Yes,
with you
yes.
on
We
yoga
should.
and then do a whole nother sit
Oh, that would
down
be
podcast
marvelous.
on meditation and maybe do like some examples
Absolutely,
of
absolutely. We have the studio there. It's
oh
there.
for sure. Hey, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard that there's a yeah. I heard you had access to a yoga studio.
Absolutely.
But I want to talk about just you know exercising for breath to and the importance of. Yeah. some people call it cardio. I don't personally do gym cardio. My gym cardio is lift heavy weights and lift them faster.
You see,
That's cardio, in my opinion. But go ahead. What's your any suggestions or?
well, there's a lot of psychology in exercise, as you know, which I share with some of the people that I talk to. But the term cardio, we tend to refer to it as an exercise. People say, "What are you doing to do cardio?" If you exercise, you are doing cardio.
You are doing cardio. That's what I tell people all the time.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
doing cardio, bro. I'm like,
What are
yeah,
you
me
doing
too, bro.
cardio? I'm like, okay, we don't correct them, but if you exercise, you are doing cardio, and of course, right in there, the breath is central in your movement, and I share this with people a lot. For example, each of us, we're born with 106 muscles. You're not going to build muscle. You cannot create muscle. You cannot build muscle. What you do to the muscle is strengthen them and expand them. And as they get stronger, and they expand it, in order to get thicker, they get more leaner, more strengthened, they have to have room. And that's what gives you the definition, all the pectoral, all the muscular you're looking at. That's why they need room. And so they're muscled, and they also carry more heat than fat. So the more muscle you have, the more the muscle will then burn the fat to make room for themselves. They need space to
And it burns on water too.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, if you exercise, you are doing cardio. For you and I, who do heavy lifting and bodybuilders and weightlifting, we doing a lot of cardio because you can't lift weight without the breath. The breath is central in your weightlifting, and particularly the way some of the exercise I see you do, controlling the movement and slow movement. You're also controlling the breath too,
Yep.
and the breath is following your thought process because when you do that slow movement exercise with that resistance and the pressure, the weight is creating in the muscle, and so the breath is distributing molecular air into the fiber of your muscle. Tremendous work. That's what make you become strong. And so therefore you are doing cardio if you're doing exercise.
Oh, I know.
Big time.
Trust me, I
Big
know.
time. The movement is marvelous and expanded the muscle, the blood flow as well, as you know, and also carry lots of people that know that. Um, the more oxygen you have in your blood, it's actually healing the internal organs like your kidney, your liver, your intestine, your bowel. All of those organs are having a heightened level of oxygen doing exercise. And of course, the brain is central to that, pumping excessive amount of dopamine and serotonin and all those chemicals that's why you feel the way you feel after exercise. Thus, that's why you go back. So that's what the bodybuilder is. You are building the body in all of its both inside and out in intricate detail. But you are doing cardio, which is vital to exercise. Period. Um, you was
Hey, thanks for saying that I'm a bodybuilder, but I'm not. I'm just.
well, you do bodybuilding work.
I do. Yeah, I follow a
All your
bodybuilding.
exercise and bodybuilding
Yeah.
work. In addition to you strengthen your heart muscles, you will see that people who do this type of exercise, we do weightlifting, uh, heart rate, what we call palpitations, is different than someone who's not or who doing just basic exercise. When you do strength training, like you and I do weightlifting, your heart rhythm is the different pace because of the muscle gets stronger over time to pump blood to the body. So those are very, very good
What
stuff.
what time does the gym close today?
7.
All right, we're gonna do part 2 next week. We got all this talking about
Yeah.
let's get big, and I'm like, okay,
Yes, that
okay.
would be great.
So let's start back with exercise next week. I have a few more questions in that, and just to give everyone a heads up for part 2, we are going to launch this podcast. By the way, um, we're done waiting. I got a lot, so for all the ears out there that've been asking me, perk up, boys. There's some there's some shit to hear. I didn't want to say it, but I had to say it. Sorry, Eddie. But next week you and I, Eddie, we're going to continue on with the breadth of exercise and the important and depth of.
Absolutely.
And then I want to get into some breathing
Yes.
techniques with you, especially ones. I have a lot of friends that are veterans and a lot of other friends that are just high. I really like high performers,
Yes.
and it's because I don't think I am. So if I'm around high performers, then I at least have to be, my I at least have to rev to their idol so I can run with them. But sleep techniques with breath and importance of having a sleep technique prior to or a breath technique
Prior to goes to bed.
prior to going to sleep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really important. You and I've never talked about
Well,
this
we will.
before.
We will.
And again, I have amateur knowledge at best, but I know what works for me, and I'd like to learn
Oh,
more.
you love that. The interrelationship I described with cooking and sitting and eating
Yeah,
is the
it's
same principle, except it's the opposite now, because now it's to sleep.
it's
You have
rest.
to be a preparation to sleep. Most people
Yes,
go to sleep because it's late. Yeah, I got to get up tomorrow.
because it's
They have
time.
a
Yeah,
preparation to
because
sleep.
of the clock.
You have to have a preparation to sleep. You have to have a
Yeah,
preparation to sleep. Some things you do to tell the body sleep, it's coming, whether it's in 5 minutes or in 10 minutes. A series of things you need to do, including your breathing apparatus, your body, and looking forward to sleep. There's preparation to sleep, things you need to do. You don't want to get up from something to sleep. You want to get up from nothing to sleep.
you don't want to get up from something to
You
sleep.
don't want to get up
You want to get up from
to sleep.
nothing to
Yeah, you don't
sleep.
want to stop
Wow,
doing something. In other words, you don't want to.
that's profound, Eddie. You need to write that down. That's an Eddie quote. Somebody write that down, put it on a meme, tag me in it, and I'm gonna send it to
Yeah,
Eddie.
those are that's what we mean when we say it's all there. We're just not using it. Yeah, yeah, but it's all there.
It's all there, man. It's all there, and that's the goal of the conversation is to get it all
That's
out
right.
there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, you can see I can talk about that forever. It's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, man. I want to make sure we all get the
Yes,
lift.
thank you.
Again, my name is Ryan, and this is my good buddy,
Thank you.
Dr. Edy
Thank you.
Pierre. And this has been another curious conversation. So, for conversation for the curious
And
minds,
don't forget to tell our audience we look forward to interact. Send us questions.
Eddie looks forward to interacting with you guys. I look forward to ignoring you because I have no desire to hear your. The internet is an evil place. Eddie will learn soon. I don't read comments, y'all. So leave comments though. That's cool. You guys can yell at
Yeah.
yourselves in the comments, and I'll read them, but I ain't replying. See you
All
later.
right.